Welcome, happy Wednesday. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Lindsey Hall and I am an intimacy and empowerment coach. And I specialize, although don't do this solely, but I specialize in helping empower women to get through their divorces and feel happier and stronger than they ever even knew was possible. We have this narrative that divorce is like the worst thing, and don't get me wrong, it can suck. In fact, it usually does suck when you're going through it. But it is possible to change that narrative and change your divorce into something super empowering and the start of something incredible, new chapter in your life. And that is where I specialize in helping women get to that point. So, hi! Every week I do these weekly tea break and question and answer chats where I spend a little bit of time, I spend a little bit of time talking about life stuff. So stuff that's gone on in the past week, things that have come up for me, lessons I've learned, things I've been going through, that kind of thing. And then the second part, I do a Q&A where people have sent me their questions and I answer them as a bit of chance for free coaching, because who doesn't love free coaching, right? So I will get started this week. There's been two things I want to talk about, which are separate but also related. So the first thing that I want to talk about was just really just a recognition of where my co-parenting relationship is now compared to where it has been in the past. And I actually think that if you watched a few of these tea break chats recently, I might have mentioned this a few times because it's been really good lately and it's worth recognizing a few times. And this week, what's come up for it is that we had to sit down to discuss our summer schedule. So we have a regular 50-50 custody split that we follow like most of the time, but we always split school holidays differently. And every year we talk about it and it changes a little bit. And so we needed to agree our summer schedule. And we've had this conversation pending for a while because we brought it up pre-Christmas. We recognized that there was a conflict, that we both wanted the same week with the girls, and that it was going to be a conflict. So first, like super go us moment was when my co-parent's partner said, let's table this discussion until after Christmas because we don't want tensions running high and getting in the way of any Christmas stuff. And I was like, ooh, check us out, her specifically. Check you out with that emotional awareness to be like, hey, we've got a good thing going between us right now. Let's not risk it with this when it wasn't a super time-sensitive conversation at that point. So we've had this conversation tabled, and we only just now got around to sitting down face-to-face to talk about it. And we do these face-to-face meetings every so often. They're not on a regular basis, but we do them when we know that we've got something, generally when it's something emotive to discuss. And we know that bouncing emails back and forth is just going to take forever. It's not likely to get anywhere. We end up with like rifts in communication and it doesn't go well for us. So we do most of our communication by email, which is helpful because it's, on your own time and there's a written record of all of it. But we know from experience that emotive topics are better handled face to face. So we got together to sit down and talk about the schedule. And it went so well. In the past, when we've done these, we've had many difficult conversations. And there have been high tensions, high emotions, practically bleeding tongues as you bite your tongue trying not to say the things. Sometimes some snappy stuff comes out. But even still, we've always gotten through them and they've been really productive. And I've been so proud of us, all of us, the way we've handled these conversations in the past. And even though they were really hard, so I would have to do all kinds of like emotional prep to get myself ready. And, I would sometimes leave and just like have a big flood of tears just because like to release all the emotions from it. Or I've, gone out for big walks to like shake all the energy off. But we've really worked hard on our communication for these past, it's been 3 years, but we didn't really start the communication until 2 years ago. But this week, it just became so apparent how all of that work that we have put into our communication and into our relationship is paying off because we had this, like I said, that we had a conflict that we wanted, and we needed to sit down to discuss it. And the whole conversation went so smoothly. We managed to reach resolution really quickly. The topic that we were talking about, there was one part where in the past it's caused big emotional reactions from all sides. And this year, didn't. It just, everything was so calm and smooth. And so, like I said, I just want to really recognize that all of that work that we have put in over the past 2 years specifically is paying off big, big style. And then where I want to go next, and how I say that this is a separate topic, but also very related to what I want to talk about next. So the next big thing that's been going on for me this weekend, the past few days sort of thing, was I was having a bit of a temper tantrum, basically. There's really, or a bit of a strop. It's not like any other way to describe it, but I've been going through big periods of growth, and some things, sometimes when you go through these big periods of growth, it can feel frustrating because emotionally and energetically, you've like moved forward all this pace, and it takes the physical world a while to catch up to you. And so in both my business and my love life, I was feeling frustrated that like, I've put in all this work and experienced all this growth and all these things. And why isn't the physical world around me like representing all of this inner work that I've done? Because like I said, I kind of was like throwing a little strop and feeling like, oh, it's just not fair. And for a day or so, I kind of did this on my own and was trying to deal with all these swampy things on my own. And then I remembered I have a coach who I pay to support me through these things. I should probably bring this temper tantrum to her. So I went into Voxer where I can leave her voice notes and text. And I left like an 8-minute rant about, and just let my feelings out. And I was at this point, like, metaphorically, like I was, arms crossed, being like, I don't even want to feel better. I just want to sit in this grump and be grumpy about things. And so when I got her voice messages back, I was listening to those messages, and I'd started listening to her messages feeling like, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to feel better. I just want to be in a grump. Do you ever know those times where you're like, just enjoying your misery, and you're like, I don't want anyone to make me feel better. I just want to be miserable here. And of course, by the time I finished listening to her, I was like, actually, this feels way better. And I can come back to the knowing that the growth that I'm going through and the growth that I've done does just go ahead, and the physical world takes time to catch up. That all of these seeds that get planted need watering and sunshine and time, and that eventually they will bloom. Now, how is all of this related to what I was saying about my co-parenting? Well, it happens to you a lot. Yes, good. I'm guessing that you mean that feeling of like being like, I want to stay grumpy. It's sort of like there's something sort of soothing about just staying in a strop sometimes. But the main thing is that like it's okay to do that, but it's not okay to then stay there and let that energy consume you and take over. And that's what my coach was talking to me about. She was talking about how it's okay to recognize these feelings of where you're at, and also then know what you need to do to pull yourself out of it. And so this is where I link back to the co-parent conversation, because she reminded me that back when all of, my marriage was falling apart and I was coming to terms with the co-parenting and I was starting to have to communicate with the other woman and things were still really like on edge with me, my co-parent, I had this vision of how I wanted our co-parenting relationship to look in the future. And I couldn't do anything about it with them. I did not have any control over how they communicated. To be honest, I didn't even know what they wanted. We weren't in a good enough spot to even say, how do we both want this to look in the future? We weren't there. So I was clear in my head about how I wanted it to look. And I got there by looking actually at Instagram accounts of I was searching for co-parenting hashtags and co-parenting peacefully and finding examples of what co-parenting could look like and going, oh, I want that. And I wanted things like nice, smooth communication. I wanted it to be not just factual, but to share stories between us. I wanted us to, go to events together. I wanted us to be peaceful and friendly, not necessarily best of friends. It was never in my vision to go on family vacations together and things like that, like some people do, but I wanted us to be friendly and to get along. So I was holding this vision for all of that time, and I would go into these meetings, and sometimes it felt like they were being quite combative, and now I don't want to speak on their behalf, so it's entirely possible that that's not how they were feeling, but it would feel to me that it was a combative conversation, or that they were on the defensive, or all these things. And I couldn't control any of that. And at that point, there was no point in me being like, I want this pretty, future vision for us. Because like I said, we weren't in that place together yet. All I could do was hold my vision of how I wanted this future to look, hold that peaceful vision. I had no idea if it was possible or not, but I kept going, well, it's possible for other people, and I'm holding on to that, and I'm going to show up like that future version of Lindsey, no matter what. Because showing up as like a grumpy, aggressive, argumentative bitch sure isn't going to get us there. It might feel a little good at the time, similar to when you're in that like stroppy, tantrumy feeling and you're like, I just want to stomp my feet and shout. It might feel good at the moment, but actually long term it doesn't, does it? So in my co-parenting relationship, it was the same. I kept going, I'm going to show up like that future version every time in all of our texts, in all of our face-to-face conversations, in all of our emails, even when I was triggered and wound up and wanted to be like, and had all these like, mean thoughts towards them and like shouty things. I would pause, I would deal with my own emotions, I would do whatever I had to do on my side, and then I would respond to them as though I was future Lindsey, as though our relationship was where I wanted it to be in the future. And I did that over and 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 over. And it gradually got easier. And now, like I said, 2 or 3 years on, like this whole conversation started, we are in a really good place. We are where my future vision 2 or 3 years ago was. We are in a place where we have peaceful conversations. When I drop stuff off at, like, if the girls leave toys at my house that need to go to their dad's house, I'll drop it off and when the girls aren't even there, and we'll have a 20-minute conversation about, funny stories about our kids, and just things are really good. And that doesn't mean there's never blips, because there's always blips when you're in relationships with people of any sort. So of course there's blips sometimes, but we handle them so well, and we are where my vision was. And that came from holding that vision so strongly. Even if I didn't know it could come true for us, I was going to show up as that version anyway. And that is what I now get to use that as an evidence and practice that with the things I was stropping about this week. So with my business and with my love life, and I get to go, I know those future visions. I am really crystal clear on what my future visions are for those, and I'm going to show up like the Lindsey who has those things already. I'm going to show up every day as though that is my truth, because what other choice do I have? I sure don't want to show up like the version who doesn't have that stuff and who is, resentful that it didn't happen, and like, past Lindsey who didn't even like have these visions. I don't want to show up like her. So instead, I'm choosing to show up every day with that future vision and go, that's how it's going to be, because that's the only way to get where I want to go, is to keep that clear vision in mind and hold on to that. And I can use my co-parenting relationship as evidence that that does, in fact, work. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing week. So, let me just check the time. Okay, I should move on to the Q&A part. I actually only have one question this week, and it's about dating, which is so fun. Dating stuff is like one of my favorite topics. So if you guys are listening to this and you have dating questions that you've been holding back on for some reason, send me in your dating questions next week. I love this shit. So this question came, and it came sort of with some conversation and background. So it wasn't just a succinct one-liner like they sometimes are. But the question was about somebody who is, she's new in a relationship. It's probably been, I think she said it was about 3 dates in. And there was a change in communication. So they've been chatting for a while, texting. Like I said, they've had 2 dates already. 3rd date was lined up. And then there was a change in communication. So the man didn't text as often as he had been, like a significant change. Previously, he had been texting lots and lots throughout every day. And then this one particular day, he didn't text until noon. And when he did text until noon, at noon, he explained what was going on in his day. There was a lot going on. And then she didn't hear from him again until like 4 or 5 that night. And this was, like I said, it was a big change from how it had been. So her question was, well, she said that like this made her feel as though he's about to break up with me. I think he's pulling back. I think that he is feeling like this is too much too soon, because both of these are their first like forays into dating after divorce. So both are pretty fresh. In fact, not even necessarily like fully clean edged on all of them yet. Both of them. There's not multiple. There's two people involved here. So not even necessarily clean edge, like they're still in the divorcing process as well. And so this is fresh, this dating for both of them. So she was feeling like he's changed his communication, he's pulling back, he's decided it's too soon, and he's going to call it off. And the question then that came out of this was, why do I feel this way when there's been absolutely nothing that's told, like, you know, he hasn't said he's uncomfortable. The conversations we're having, he seems totally into me. I am totally into him. So why does this change in communication suddenly make me feel like, you know, almost on the ledge of like, this is it. Things are, you know, are about to break up. And it's actually not an uncommon reaction. So what I will say about this is that is trauma response kicking in. So that is the flight response of something is wrong, something has triggered me, something is changing, and I want to run away. I want to do the flight. I want to hightail it out of here. It's like, and that's something that's changed. Like, so we can be really perceptive to changes in energy. And in this case, it was, you know, an observable physical, like there were texts every so much more often. And now there's been like 5-hour gaps in between the texts. Like, you know, that's an observable thing. But sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes you're like, I can't put my finger on it, but something's changed, because we can be really perceptive in picking up shifts in energy. And taking those shifts in energy So when we notice those shifts in energy, like I said, our trauma response can kick in, and we can do, like in this case, she wanted to run away and be like, I think he's going to break up with me. That's it. Forget it. Let's call this whole thing off. And we are trying, by doing this, we are trying to protect ourselves. That's our response to say, I don't want to get hurt here, so I'm going to run. You know, think of it in, like when we're thinking in evolutionary terms, if you're walking through the jungle and you hear some leaves rattle over there, it might be a tiger, so hightail it out of there before you find out. If you notice a change or something, get out of there before something leaps out and eats you. It's the same modern day version that you're like, something's different, I gotta get out of here before it hurts me. But we're not in the jungle. It's probably not a tiger trying to eat you. And recognizing these responses doesn't mean that we have to then necessarily give in to them. And one thing that, brain freeze sometimes. So when we notice these responses, we don't have to give in to them, but we can choose how we react. So in this case, I would say that you get to choose, do I want to immediately react and run away and say, yep, it must be that. You must be doing this because you want to break up with me and run. You can do that, totally fine. Or do you want to choose to handle this differently and say, what do I need right now? I need to feel safe. I'm feeling unsafe by this change. I want to feel safe. What do I need to feel safe right now? How can I get that feeling back? And it's an invitation to go in and say, what do I need? Do I need a hug? Do I need to call a friend and just talk this through and vent it? Do I need to paint? Do I need to journal? Do I need to curl up in a big, huge blanket and wrap myself up and feel physically safe? What do I need to meet that need inside of me of feeling safe? Because by doing that, by giving into it, because you're reacting to that feeling of unsafeness and you're trying to protect yourself. So rather than asking them to protect you, go in and find out what it is that you need in order to feel safe. And then once you've soothed your needs and calmed down, it can then be a super great invitation to connect with the other person as well. So sometimes after all that, you can go, actually, I don't even need to talk about it with them. It wasn't anything they did. That was a me thing. That was my trauma response. And it's something that I need, that I can work through. Other times it can be, like I said, a great invitation to connect and say, you know what? When I noticed that you stopped texting as much, or when you pulled back that day, it made me feel like this. And I'm explaining that to you so that you know it's something that I'm aware of and that I'm working through. But also, it would be helpful for me to talk to you about it and to understand where you're coming from on this. And sometimes it can be a thing like, I've actually had a similar situation where somebody who I'd been dating was going quiet, and turns out it was nothing to do with wanting to break up with me. He was just processing his own shit and had a whole bunch of stuff going on that day and needed to do it on his own. And that's totally, completely fine. But I got to say to him, I totally understand that. It would help me a lot if you were just able to tell me, I'm processing my own stuff. I will let you know when I'm able to kind of come back and communicate. And I could step back and go, great, take all the time you need. I totally understand. And so it was, in this case, it was kind of on him to communicate with me a bit better, but for me to also go, you know what, there's other stuff that could be going on. It might not just be about me. Like, get out of your own way and understand that people have things that aren't just about me. Because it's my ego going, if he's gone quiet, it must be something to do with me, when really there's a whole lot of life that could be happening in someone's head. Love this activity, very practical. Fantastic. Glad it helps. So does that answer the question? Let me see here. So the question was, why is this making me feel like when the texting slowed down, why is this making me feel like I want to run? So I think the summary of that is, it's a trauma response. You can choose how you want to respond to it. And in the meantime, you can flood your body with pleasure, flood your body with safety, meet your own needs to soothe that. And then you can use it as an invitation to connect. So it's a connection with yourself and with the other person. I hope that answers the question. Okay. So I think that is everything I wanted to cover today. So I'm going to leave you at the end, like I always do, by saying if any of this brought anything up that you want to talk about more, let me know in the comments, send me a message. Feel free to share this with anybody who you think might want to see it. As always, there are multiple ways to work with me. So I've got one-to-one coaching available, which does not have to be about divorce. One-to-one coaching is for anything that you want to bring, where you want to dive deeper into intimacy with yourself, intimacy with others, and really feel empowered to live a life that you fucking love. So you can do that with me with the mini package of 3 sessions for £444, or the luxury 3-month package where you get 3 calls a month and Voxer, which is the voice note and texting, which is what I was using with my coach. So when I was having my temper tantrum, I could leave her Voxer notes and she could leave me Voxer notes back. Even though we don't have a call again until next week, we still got to sort through it, like basically overnight. And then it was done by the morning. So the Voxer is super, super awesome because you get coaching like all the time. Not all the time, I do sleep, have, weekends and stuff. But you get Voxer access. So the 3 months of the calls and the Voxer access is £667 a month. Also, there is the Divorcee program. So if you are anywhere in the midst of the divorce mess, so there's the doubting program for when you are questioning your relationship and you're not sure if this is the end or if you should stay or what's going on there. There's the doubting program. There's the divorcing program for when it's happening and you are anywhere in the mess of the divorce. If you're like, oh, I don't feel over this yet, the divorcing program is right for you. And then there's the dating program where we get to talk about all the fun stuff and some of the hard stuff that comes up with dating. All of those are available on my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com. The just lessons only is the bronze package, and those are £122 for any of those 3 programs. And if you buy any of those programs in February, you get a free call with me! Yay! So as an added bonus for February, so for £122, you'd get the lessons and you'd get a call with me. There's also silver and gold support packages where you can get varying levels of calls and Voxer support as well. All of the details of that are on my pinned post on my grid or on the website. So if any of this is helpful or unhelpful, let me know. Let's keep the conversation going. Share with anybody who you think might benefit from it. And if you want to ask a question for next week, send me a question. You can send it in my DMs anytime, or I'll put up the story on Tuesday, the day before, like I always do. And I will be back here on Wednesday next week to answer your questions. Okay, sending you lots of love. Have a fabulous week, and I'll see you later.